Hello and welcome everyone to the first episode of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. Brandon, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I hope pretty well. I'm doing well. I mean, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I've been excited for this because I've been wanting to get back into One Piece for a long time. And I think that's a good place to start for this podcast, is just sort of giving our backstories, how we kind of got into One Piece to begin with, maybe where we fell off, or if you didn't fall off, I don't know. Because I first heard about One Piece around college, which is around 2005, I think, actually. Somewhere around there, 2004, 2005. And a friend was talking it up, and I finally watched it, and I'm like, oh, this is good. this is really good. It clicked with me because we had the old Kaizoku fan dubs, which were a godsend when all we had was four kids. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I remember watching 4Kids and being like, oh no, I'm done with this.
Yep.
And I just got introduced by that, and it clicked with me because it seemed so much more structured than what Dragon Ball had ever been, which was my high watermark up to that point. I love Yu Yu Hakusho is always my favorite, but for a long running series, Dragon Ball was always like, that's the shonen comparison at the time. And I watched it for the longest time, kept up with the anime, and then I got to kind of, I think, the Water 7 arc, and I basically caught up to where the anime was, and man, it's rough going week to week on the anime.
Oh yeah, and I just sort of stopped for a while, and then I came back and caught up to where I left off in the manga, and just went to where I was current at that point, which was, I believe, blanking on the name of it, but it's the half cold, half hot island. Punk Hazard.
Punk Hazard, that's right.
Yeah.
Right up to about there, and then I caught up again and going week to week, but not on One Piece. It was week to week on the big 3 at the time, which is Bleach, One Piece, Naruto. Yep. And Bleach is terrible to read week to week because nothing ever happens.
It is. I was up to date on Bleach as well, up through about halfway through the final arc. It's just you'll get just like pages of just like nothing happening.
Yeah, it just feels so inconsequential.
I do like Bleach a lot, but yeah, it's reading it weekly was not great.
Having all the chapters available, like flying through them, it's like, man, this is great stuff. You really get into it.
Yeah.
You don't worry about the pacing. It seems better paced for an entire volume rather than chapter by chapter. But when I saw it was announced that, hey, the final arc is beginning, I'm like, okay, cool. I will put all 3 on the back burner and come back to it later once Bleach is over. I think 5 years later, Bleach was finally over. Something like that. Something like that. That final arc
is very long.
Oh God, it was. I by that point I was like, well, I'm too far behind, and I'm too busy now. So eventually, I'll get back to One Piece, and that time is now, thanks to this.
Yeah. All right.
But what's your backstory on One Piece?
Mine is, I think, rather complicated. Actually, I was, of course, introduced to it by the 4Kids dub back on Fox Kids. This was like 2006 or so. I'm a bit younger, so that was like late middle school, early high school for me. And of course, I think anybody's first impression for the 4Kids dub is just gonna be like, what is this crap? This is horrible. Mm-hmm. By that point, I had already had a huge chip on my shoulder about 4Kids because I'm a huge Yu-Gi-Oh fan. It is probably my favorite manga of all time, next to One Piece, then probably Trade Blows, depending on when you ask me.
Nice.
So I was intimately familiar with the wrongs that 4Kids have done to some projects. And so learning about One Piece was a lot like, okay, this is a lot like my favorite thing, where they took something that was really rad and ruined it. While I was aware of it, it was the news that Funimation would be taking over for the English dub. Mm-hmm. And like, it was on the Toonami airings, it was quite literally like the 4Kids dub ended like at the end of Alabasta, and Funimation picked up like directly after at Jaya, and I watched a little bit of those episodes right when the handover happened, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I hope that this could eventually happen for my other favorite thing that ended up not happening, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubs are still bad, but
At least you got the movie. I mean, that last movie.
We got the movie.
It showed what that cast could do with that Yu-Gi-Oh movie. It's like, man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I wish the whole series and all of the spin-offs and stuff were of that quality. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, exactly.
It was definitely the swap over from 4Kids to Funimation, and just sort of the fervor that was happening on forums and social media, or quote unquote social media at the time in 2007, that had me like, oh, okay, this is really interesting. That switchover happened in Jaya, and then Funimation went back to the beginning and started releasing the DVDs. So I got the DVDs. I rented them off of Netflix back when they used to ship you DVDs. And I think I watched up to Sanji's introduction off of renting the DVDs. And then I fell off, and then around 2011, 2012, my brother and I were in a bookstore, and then we both just like, we were browsing the manga section, and then we looked at One Piece, and we were like, wouldn't it be really funny if we got into One Piece? So we started reading the manga as a joke. As like, this is something that we're never going to catch up with. We were both ride or die Naruto and Bleach fans at the time. And so there's the other 1/3 of the big three that we just had, fairly little familiarity with. So, we start reading the manga as a joke, and then it's like, oh wait, this is actually fire. So over the course of the next like year and a half, 2 years or so, yeah, I really just started like, I was jumping back and forth between the anime and the manga. I think I went full manga around Enia's Lobby, and I got caught up right at the end of Fishman Island, and then I was weekly up until about a third of the way through Dressrosa, which was horrible to read week to week. And then I sort of swore off the series. Like I would just read it whenever an arc was done. So Dressrosa finished, I read it, I finished it, and then I dropped it until Whole Cake Island finished, and then read through all of that. And then once I started becoming more active on Twitter and talking about my job in the manga industry, and I think, I don't remember how it happened, but like, I guess I got noticed by some of the folks who run the One Piece podcast, and they wanted to have me on as a guest to talk about the most recent chapter, which was, I want to say, spring 2020. We were talking mid Wano, like 970s, 980s. So I basically
love that you're throwing out these arcs, and I'm like, I've heard of them. I know nothing about them.
This is more for the readers than anything, or the listeners, I suppose. But yeah, I gone through like 80 chapters of Wano, which is the current story arc, for my first appearance on the One Piece podcast. Showed up again. I think that was this year. It might have also been 2020. Either way, I showed up on that podcast twice to talk about the most recent chapters. But what I'm trying to say is that I've been caught up on the manga for about a year and a half now.
Nice.
And I read the chapters basically as soon as they come out.
I mean, it'll be a while until I get to the brand new stuff that I've never encountered before for this podcast. But I realized as I was reading through this, man, I'm hazy on a lot of details.
Me too.
It's been a while, and I know the broad strokes, but man, getting into the specifics, it's like I forgot, and I've never read the manga from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Like I've encountered the manga through the Shonen Jump magazine, where they kind of did the whole monthly Shonen Jump for America for a while, but I didn't read that until they were in Sanji, so I completely missed how it began. And I guess let's go ahead and get this started, because with chapter 1, Romance Dawn, because what a way to start a story, because it's very different from the anime. And it begins with, a one-page narration about the great pirate Gold Roger. And right before his beheading, he declares that all of his treasure is found somewhere in the world. You have to go explore the entire world. The One Piece is not mentioned at all within the first chapter. I can only imagine for like people reading this for the first time when it premiered in 97. Holy crap, 97. We're like, what the hell's a One Piece? What
does it have to do with it has nothing to do with the story of the first chapter at all.
Nope. And then we got that declaration. His head gets lopped off. You don't see it, but you hear the thunk for it. And then the next scene, we got this kid Luffy who stabs himself in the face. That is our introduction to Luffy, as he just stabs himself right in the cheek.
Yeah. As a fun fact, that bit is actually cut from the anime. Of course, I'm not gonna probably talk a whole ton about anime comparisons in general, just because I'm a bit fuzzy on a lot of the details. But some of the stuff I've watched fairly recently, so like not only like this first chapter is moved to like episode 4, but they also I think probably because they didn't want kids just like trying to recreate Luffy stabbing himself in the face, but. It wasn't until like TV specials and stuff that would reanimate these early chapters. Like we if you're watching the anime, you don't know how Luffy got his scar, the scar on his cheek. Whereas it's right here at the beginning where he stabs himself to prove to Shanks that he's cool. Which,
yeah, exactly.
You know,
I'm cool. I'm fun. I'm tough. I'll stab myself, and there you go. Yeah. Look how cool I am. And I think that is most of this first chapter is Luffy just trying to convince these pirates that he's a cool guy. It's like, let me join your club. No. Let me join your club. No. I'll stab myself. No. It just doesn't work. And I really just shows off Oda's style immediately because, man, Luffy's mouth is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's expressive. I can't get enough of the art style in these early chapters. Like it's, the art has definitely changed as the series has gone on, but I think with a lot of manga, you can sort of see artists get a lot more comfortable as the story goes on and on and on. But I like for One Piece, there's such a confidence even basically from the word go of just like the art and the paneling and the storytelling. It's just like this is the kind of story that Oda wants to tell, and I'm just like it's so infectious and enrapturing.
It's his epic, and we're along for the ride. And
yeah,
the crowd shots are his forte. Just so many characters all doing different things, and just having this party atmosphere. Like right from the chapter splash page, we got all these characters around. Most of them are just incidental characters that don't matter a whole lot. I mean, they're just Shanks's crew. But then there's Nami, who is not even shown up in this first 5 chapters. I would not have any idea who this girl is if I hadn't already been experienced it. But Nami is right there.
I hadn't thought about that.
So that's wild. But yeah, we get that introduction, and then we get our proper introduction to Shanks and his crew, red-haired Shanks. And man, they paint pirates as super fun.
Yeah, they do. That's probably something, we'll get to going forward, and something I'll probably want to touch on later in this episode. But like, I guess the portrayal of like that pirates just live this life full of adventure, but there's also this other side where, if you're sort of a normal person or just like a normal criminal, you're just like, pirates, like, well, you guys are losers.
Yeah, we absolutely get that, because it's just, Shanks and his crew hanging out in this bar, drinking, eating, having a good time. Shanks is making fun of Luffy as he just wants to come along, and there's this great humor that goes to it. This great characterization. You see the fun of Shanks, you see the fun of his crew, and you can kind of see why Luffy really wants to come along with them. He's like, "Take me along." It's like, fine, you can come along, but one of the crew members has to stay behind. And like, nope, well, tough luck. Just.
Oh yeah,
it's so good.
That's a great little scene.
I think overall this chapter is a fantastic introduction to the series. It doesn't do a lot, like as far as like no major storyline or anything like that happens, but it's just getting you a feel for this world, what the ideal pirate in Luffy's mind is, and the fact that the villagers, like, you got this normal bar girl Makino, just like, how you doing, pirates? No big deal.
Yeah, and you have the bear of the village who just hates pirates, and it's just like, Luffy's gonna bring shame to us all. It's very funny considering the what ends up happening over the course of the story. But
so yeah, we just have this interaction between Luffy and Shanks, and asking to be part of it, but how can you be a pirate? You can't even swim.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. And that's such a huge. They make such a huge deal of it in these early chapters, because of course what happens is he eats the gum fruit on accident, and that's supposed to be like, well, your dream of becoming a seafaring pirate is over because you can't swim anymore. And it's like, well, I'll just become a pirate who never has to who never falls off the boat. And it's such a Luffy mindset of like, your circumstances just don't matter. Like you're gonna find a way to make it work.
Exactly. It's like this is what I want to happen. I'm going to make it happen. I also speaking of the gum fruit, I love that just a panel where it's all of a sudden Luffy's just eating this food and you don't think anything of it. It's just like, oh, he's eating some fruit, whatever.
Oh yeah, just so casually.
Yeah, it's just not a big deal. And that's when we have Haguma the Bear show up.
Yep.
A good old mountain bandit, which yeah, he's a character.
Yeah. My favorite, again, there's so much about this chapter that changes when you have I guess the perspective of the full series in mind. Just as his little, like, him walking up to Shanks and being like, my head's worth 8 million berries. I'm a wanted man. And he thinks he's so cool with his little bounty of 8 million, which ends up being just minuscule in the grand scheme of things. And I can't help but think Oda was, even at this point, intensely aware, like, how little this guy matters.
Yeah, there are hints to just how good Shanks is, because you don't really think about it these first chapters. And obviously, I don't want to spoil anything for later down the line in case people are reading through this with us. And I don't even know some of the more recent stuff. But needless to say, Shanks is a bit more important than you'd ever think with this first chapter. It just seems like a pirate to aspire to, a normal pirate. Like, oh, that's cool, and he seems pretty neat.
Yeah.
And as we'll see later in this chapter, yeah, there's something special to him that he can do what he does.
Yeah,
and that's insane.
There's a detail that cropped up in the manga like 10 chapters ago from this recording that I can't talk about at all, but it's just another one of those things that's like a seemingly throwaway line that's like, wait, hold on, what?
Oda is so good at that. It's why starting at the beginning was kind of important to me rather than start where I left off, because these details matter. Like, you don't think so. And it takes a long time for this stuff to build up. It's like, because for the first good couple arcs, it doesn't seem like any of these things, it's like, oh, they're just details. They don't really come back. And then all of a sudden they start coming upon themselves and mattering a lot more. And that's the fun part. So for anybody who's reading along with us this for the first time through One Piece, pay attention, take your time, definitely absorb all of this.
Take time with it. That is probably the biggest advice I can give to anybody. It sounds like such a daunting task to read over 1,000 chapters, but like, that's the fun part. The being caught up is the worst part. And I think that's why it's so important that we go like this 5 chapters a week pace, which is really, really relaxed. I've had friends who've a lot of friends actually who have gotten into the series over the pandemic because they just have time. And so they can just take their time with it. I definitely think One Piece is a manga that is the world is so detailed and there's so many different moving parts that it's really important to just let it all soak in, and it's such an immersive story in that way.
It's funny you say soak in, because that's exactly what that grog does to Shanks's body.
Yep, you got,
because Haguma thinks himself big dog here, decides to smash the last bottle of grog left in the bar, because how dare Shanks offer that to him, and how will that feed have all of his men get drunk with this? And Shanks just sort of brushes it off and tries to clean up the mess and just talks to Makino. Doesn't even really think about Haguma at that point. He's just like, well, I'll bust up even more stuff and make it even dirtier. And then just leaves. And that really rubs Luffy the wrong way, because the entire crew is just laughing at it, which is a good sign that the crew gets Shanks. Like, you don't think about it, but they get Shanks. They're all on the same page, which is a nice bit of camaraderie there. Yeah.
I mean, imagine, like, for Luffy's like a 7-year-old boy at this point, and like, imagine like this guy is your hero and he just took a massive L in front of everybody and he's laughing it off, and it's just like, what? Like, I thought you were supposed to be cool. I feel like that's sort of a universal feeling almost of like, you make up these idolized versions of folks, especially when you're a kid, of like, this is the coolest person on the planet to me, when they're just like a normal person. They get in trouble and they laugh stuff off, and Shanks knows what's important. And
and it's funny to see, even just in these 5 chapters, how Luffy's worldview has changed since this, because he's so quick to anger in this. He's like, you make him look weak, and it's just like awful. And he just, but every other chapter in this, he is so laid back.
Yeah, yeah.
It is like he fights the points that matter to him. So it really, again, emphasizes how important this first chapter is and how Shanks shaped his worldview. But I do love the fact that it's so subtle how the devil fruit is introduced, because you see him eating it a few panels while the whole Haguma thing is going on. And then he gets mad at Shanks for being made to look weak and being a disgrace to all pirates. And he goes to go find a real role model. And then his arm stretches out because as Shanks is holding on to him. And it's just like,
Yep.
man, I wish I could be there for the first time again. Like seeing like, this is what the whole thing is like. Oh, he's a rubber man now.
Yeah. It's such a core a core concept of One Piece's identity that is just, I guess it is just dropped so casually in this first chapter. And you know, there's no sort of like the world end of the lore about the devil fruits it gets complicated, surprisingly. But I love how simple, like, it's just one of those things that's like, hey, wait, this is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. But
yeah, I feel like most other manga would have a long introduction like, this is the devil fruit, the fruit of the devil, a secret treasure of the sea that changes a person's body, making them unbelievably strong, but makes them unable to swim for the rest of their life. Yeah. Is the trade-off worth it? Each pirate must decide for themselves. That sort of thing, that overwrought thing. Yeah. And instead it's just like, by the way, it's like, here's Gold Roger. There's a big treasure out there that every pirate wants that sets off a new age of piracy. And, oh yeah, there's these things called devil fruit. Whatever. It's dropped later on.
Yeah, exactly. It just, I think that's something that Oda's really good at in general. I think is just that, like, you really know as much as you need to know in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that most certainly applies to things like the devil fruits and all those sorts of other little hints and nods that come up way later. But I really appreciate the sort of whimsicalness of just like, you ate this thing and now you can stretch and it's weird. We're just gonna move on.
Exactly. And then Luffy gets over it pretty quick. He's just like,
yeah,
hey, I can stretch out my face. That's cool.
He's just stretching out his face. It's adorable.
I believe he could already do that the way his mouth was in that first, first
yeah,
panel,
it's like you can stretch, but
now I just won't stick that way. I don't know why, but there's this little exchange between Makino and Luffy that I love, where Luffy's still kind of pouting because Shanks at this point has left and gone on another voyage and has been away for a little while. And he says, "You just wouldn't understand, Makino. A real man has to stand up for himself no matter what." And she just sort of laughs at all. It's like, "Is that right? I guess I don't understand." Yeah, that's right. I mean, you don't. It just it emphasizes how much of a kid he is. Yeah,
such a pouty 7-year-old.
It gives him that sense of realism.
Yeah,
and then Haguma shows up again.
Yeah,
it's interesting they don't show why Luffy gets into this fight. Like, because on the outset, Haguma's kind of right. He didn't do anything to Luffy. He's just doing his own thing. But Luffy is dead set on fighting, and it does not go well for him. He doesn't get a single hit in. He gets the crap beat out of him. I love the kind of dark sense of this, like how badly he'd be beat up otherwise if it wasn't for the devil fruit. So because they say our punches and kicks aren't hurting you at all.
Oh right, yeah, which is that comes into play very quickly. It's just like a subtle way to say that he's sort of invulnerable to like physical blunt attacks.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of brutal. He grabs his face and just swings him around. You can see his cheek stretching.
Oh, yeah.
Boinged away. Like,
yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Crazy. Like, this is... If he wasn't a rubber man, a rubber kid, this would be a really devastating beatdown.
Yeah, yeah.
But, the mayor tries to negotiate and try to get Luffy saved. And Luffy's still throwing insults despite getting all that. He's like... thinking of selling Luffy as a freak show at first, but then he decides like, nah, I'm going to kill him because he just keeps insulting me.
Yep.
And then Shanks shows up.
Yeah, of course.
And this sells Shanks as a badass.
Yeah. Oh, I love the sequence so much where like Shanks's crew shows up and then like one of the bandits, he's got a gun pointed at Shanks's head, and then Shanks is like, oh, if you're pointing a gun, you're ready to die, and then it's not safe to point guns, and so one of Shanks's crew members just shoots the bandit point blank, and it's like it's that hard contrast between these like goofy fun-loving pirates and then when the chips are down, they're ready to fight.
Exactly. And I don't know. I can't remember if they later said this pirate's name, and don't tell me if they do. The fat one that is always eating meat. He's the one that shoots this pirate in the head, which is brutal. He just shot a guy right in the head, which, you know, is crazy. But like, we never get a name for this guy.
Yeah, he shows up a lot, actually. I don't know if I don't know his name.
He feels like a main character of Shanks's crew, but I have no idea what his name is. But he's awesome. I love this guy.
Yeah, it's great.
And I love this, like the band is saying, that wasn't fair. It's like, stop whining. You're not dealing with saints, and we're pirates and we don't play by the rules. And I'm like, I love that dichotomy between the fun-loving side and then we get like, yeah, we're pirates. This is the thing that this happens.
Yep.
And then we get more of Shanks's thought process of like, I don't care what you do to me, but you hurt my friend and you're done.
And I think and the way Luffy reacts to that, and it's my friend, like that is, I feel like that is such a moment for him. Mm-hmm. It is so. I think that this chapter is the best at like really showing what Shanks or what Luffy sees in Shanks, and like the actions that Shanks takes that define Luffy's character.
Yeah, it really goes to show, because there's a big reason that the One Piece audience knows the word Nakama.
Yeah,
that is probably one of the most important words. And I don't, us reading the translated version, that's not really going to come up, but I do distinctly remember when watching the old Kaizoku fan dubs or fan subs that they translated Nakama and basically made a point that like, it's not just friend, it's like the greatest friend, the closest friend. And it's just, that's how close everybody is to one another, and that's why it matters so much when to use the word Nakama.
Yeah, I think words like friend and crew, and that is mostly what shows up in translated versions. I think those get close enough, but like I guess there is sort of like this association, especially within the world of One Piece, like when you're like, you're my friend, like I will die for you.
Exactly.
That is sort of the way in which the story frames friendships and relationships, and it's something that I vibe with a whole lot.
Exactly. But yeah, we have the first mate just beat everybody down with his gun, like literally just beat him up with the gun rather than actually shoot it. And Haguma uses a smoke bomb, has those ninja techniques, and takes off. I love the goofiness of Shanks being like, "Oh crap, how did I let that happen?"
Yeah.
And then we find out Haguma decided like, I'm so clever, I will escape to the sea. Nobody expects a mountain bandit at the sea. And then he decides to kick off Luffy into the water.
Yeah, it's very.
Go on.
Oh no, that was it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Just like he's just being an evil guy.
Yeah,
he's just a very simple to start the story out. A very simple villain to start the story out.
It's like, I've killed 56 people. What's one more? This is just
what's
fun
one
for
more?
me.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but I do like how it leads into this flashback of showing why Luffy attacked him in the first place. That even though he was disappointed by Shanks's actions or inaction, I suppose, he's still ready to stand up for him. He defends them back at the bar. Stop talking bad about Shanks and stuff.
Exactly. It shows that the insults he was throwing at Shanks himself, he didn't mean them, because he was calling Shanks a coward himself. But somebody else calls him a coward, and he's like, no, he's not a coward. I might call him a coward, but I know he's not a coward. And how dare you say that? Yeah. It's, again, surprisingly subtle character development for Luffy, and showing what he's kind of all about. And then Haguma gets eaten by a sea monster.
Yeah, pretty much. just completely out of nowhere.
But... Yep, he's just gone.
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, I had completely forgotten this next bit.
Oh, yeah.
I completely forgot that Shanks lost his arm.
Yeah, he comes to Luffy's rescue in the middle of the ocean, and just it's such a powerful moment for me. Of just like, this is sort of the sacrifice that he's willing to make for Luffy. Oh, and of course, it's a small price to pay. It's just an arm.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, you stood up for me. Stop crying. He is completely no-selling this fact that he lost an arm, and it's just he's still just bleeding out into the ocean. Don't know how he's swimming. He must be a strong kicker, because he is holding Luffy and still swimming with just one hand. Well, not even that, he's just holding on to Luffy, comforting him.
Yeah, seriously.
But man, I love that look, the get out of here, and just how he just doesn't even have to fight him, just scares him off.
It's just, yeah, he's just got that look.
Yep. It is
it's great.
Such a good moment. And then we kind of get a wrap up of Luffy, this whole experience teaching him this, like, you know what? I understand. I am not ready. I'll be ready. And then I'm going to actually become an even better pirate than you. And, you know, Shanks is still making fun of him and all that. But
yeah,
you see the respect because he gives him the straw hat, the iconic straw hat.
That panel where he's just, you know, he's giving the straw hat to him is such an iconic One Piece moment that shows up in, you know, it's been reanimated and shows up in like games and specials, you know, all of there's so many different takes on this one moment. And I just love the background fading away, just for how important and formative of a moment that this is. It's great stuff.
It's the moment. I think that's what this panel emphasizes, the fact, because it's just Luffy, Shanks in a white space. And it is, man, I like being able to take the time to just absorb the manga like this really does show just how well Oda does with making each panel feel like they matter. Like it really does either sets the mood or shows the characters or whatever, what have you. And it's great stuff. And yeah, Shanks leaves for good from this. He was hung around too long, probably because he really liked Luffy. You can sort of get the idea from. And 10 years pass and Luffy's grown up and ready to set out on his own on a little dinghy. And it goes to show, like, yep, this is the shonen, all right. He's ready to he immediately beats the crap out of that sea monster with his gum pistol.
That spread when he punches the sea monster is one of my favorite panels in the entire series. There are a lot of great spreads in One Piece, but just like the way that Oda really uses perspective to like sell Luffy's stretchy abilities, it's just the amount of force behind that one spread. I love it.
It looks painful.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And it's a good sign of his power level, because this is a bandit who had an 8 million berry bounty on his head, which you would have to assume is a lot at the time because you don't have anything to really compare it with. And like Luffy took it out no problem with just one punch.
It's great.
And I think we get some very key things here that definitely people, I think, still refer to this day, as far as I know, where he's like, all right, first things first, I got to get a crew. I think about 10 men should do, and I'll need a pirate flag. And then, you know, declares he's going to be king of the pirates, which, that's important. Like, every line of dialogue matters. Truly. Again, even now, there are things that have happened very recently that call back to this first chapter that I can't quite go into, but it's just like how much was he planning things out? I'm sure there are more knowledgeable fans who can probably talk deeper about like retcons and stuff and maybe little inconsistencies here, but just the ways, just even there's so many little things about this that it just feels so perfect, and feels like the tone and the world feel consistent with what this first chapter sets up. And I think that is really important when a lot of long-running manga and a lot of Shonen Jump manga can change dramatically over the course of the story, for better and for worse. And I'm not saying that One Piece hasn't changed, but I think the core ideals are so strong that the foundation laid in this first chapter it still rings through, even 1,030 chapers later. I think that's the key thing for as we go through this, is that we'll probably change with the manga. We'll appreciate what it's doing at the time. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. We'll find out, because I don't know how exactly it's all going to go. I've made a point to make sure to stay completely spoiler free for whatever happens after I stopped, because I knew I was going to get back to it one day. I wanted to, because I needed to see the story come to an end, because you talk about it so much. But let's go ahead and move on to chapter 2. They call him Straw Hat Luffy, which boy, this is such a on point character beat for Luffy. It's like, wonderful day, nice weather. Shame it's going to end in disaster, and he's just going down a whirlpool, and he's just completely fine.
He's going to die. Yeah.
I love it. Like, that is Luffy's character. It's like,
Yeah.
is like, huh, could really use a help, but there's nobody around. Well, down I go. Too bad I can't swim. Oh, what was I thinking? It's a giant whirlpool.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if I can swim or not. And that's it. That's the last you see of him. And we just switch to our next set of pirates that are very different from Shanks, the Alvida crew.
I definitely think, because we get with Alvida and her crew, we get sort of a better sense of what pirates are usually like in this world.
Yeah.
You know, that are more like actual pirates. And I think it's important that Oda set this up as early on as he did, that, you know, like sort of the fun-loving, adventurous type of pirates are certainly out there, and they're, you know, that's the ideal that Luffy's trying to live up to. But, you know, there's a lot of pirates that are just actual pirates, you know, that they're kind of horrible people, and ruthless might makes right type of pirates.
Yeah, and Alvida is like, how dare this ship not be clean? I'm going to beat you all senseless with my spiked club, which does look brutal. Like, there's blood flying everywhere when she beats on him. I'm quite curious. Well, first of all, we also get Kobe, but how do you feel? Because, again, this was made back in 97. This is basically 24 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
We got the... Ooh, those are nice eyes. Oh, that's, you know, kind of in shadow, but there seems like a nice looking woman here that's doing all these nasty things. And then the reveal, she's fat.
Yeah. Actually, man, flipping back and forth between that first close up of her and the zoomed out spread, they are different characters entirely.
Oh yeah, they definitely.
I hadn't noticed that.
Shifting things. Like
it's just completely.
He wants to have that as a big reveal.
Yeah. I like Alvida as a character a lot. Just maybe more so for later on, more so than the purpose that she serves here. How do I want to frame this? Like, Oda's character designs can be like super weird and super cartoony. I appreciate that. I think he tends to get weirder with the men than he does with the women. And so, well, yeah, Alvida's huge and, you know, fat, but she's also like, she's intimidating and she's still powerful.
That is true. And I think it actually is a big point, because we do get some wild designs later on, and she's kind of the first step towards that. I feel.
Yeah.
Like this big, bulky person who's kind of powerful. So upon first seeing it, it's like, all right, it feels like a fat joke, but okay. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's not as mean-spirited as I think it could be.
That's true. That is very true.
That's maybe kind of a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's like, for the most part, like I don't think that's, generally speaking, that's not the problem with this character.
Yeah.
It's not like, you're fat so you're evil or anything like that.
Right. And we did have a fat character in the last one who literally we see him eating meat every chapter, every panel, but that's also Luffy. He just eat as much as he can as well. But yeah, we just basically see her beating on her crew, beating on this cabin boy Kobe, and he just sort of smiles and takes it.
I guess I'm skipping no, I guess I don't want to skip too far ahead here. But, you know, they basically, Kobe finds this barrel, Luffy pops out of the barrel, and, you know, he sort of scares off Alvida's crew and, you know, gets them in trouble a little bit. But once Kobe and Luffy have like their first one-on-one conversation, I love what Oda does here by like basically contrasting how much of a scaredy cat that Kobe is, you know, and he's basically he's accepted his lot in life for the past 2 years because he's too much of a chicken to do anything about it. And then just right off the bat, Luffy's like, "You're clumsy and dumb." Like, it's just a worldview that Luffy just does not understand. He just does not get. This is just like, why are you still here? You know?
Yeah, and it's like he's telling about how Kobe got it mixed up with Alvida because he wanted to go fishing and boarded a pirate ship by mistake, and that's how he got conscripted into Alvida's crew, and only survived because he's a cabin boy and knows the seas pretty well. And I love it. Clumsy and dumb is like, oh, and you're gutless too. You really are worthless. It's like, man, that's kind of mean, but it's also just like, you know, I'll admit, the first time watching One Piece, did not like Kobe.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't stick around for a long time, but I think he at least serves as a good contrast, and I think is maybe the first major example of like the sort of worldview that Luffy has changes people.
Yes, I agree with that. He is a nice, isolated first example of that idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, yeah, he's a pirate, but he can still inspire, like, he inspires this boy to, like, take up his dream to join the Navy as we get throughout this chapter. Because, I think the first chapter was one that we really got to focus on. Like, I felt like we had to go in order and really step it up. But I think we can sort of be a little looser with the chapters from this point.
Yeah.
But one other thing I noticed right away, I gotta say, I prefer Luffy's introduction in the anime coming from the barrel than this, and then what we see here. I
was actually going to mention the same thing.
Yeah, I like that you don't really get the setup. Obviously, you kind of have an idea what's going to be in the barrel. It's at sea. You see them in the middle of pirating, and he actually knocks out some guys while coming out of the barrel. It just shows the accidental thing. It's a surprise, and it just lacks the impact. And instead you have Alvida like attacking them because how dare they say they were having a nap type thing.
Yeah, I had actually, it's been a while since I've read the manga version of this story, of this particular chapter. Of course, I rewatched the first couple of episodes of the anime pretty much constantly, but the last time was about a month ago. So it was surprising to me. The anime sort of changes things to be a little bit more in media res, where there are actively things happening with Alvida and her crew, whereas in the manga version, they're kind of sort of in the background. Like they're sort of here and they're not doing anything.
They're just kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah, they're not really, nothing's really happening right now.
Alvida's just sort of beating her own crew, and she happens to have a cabin boy who doesn't really deserve this, and that's really it. Is really inconsequential overall as far as Alvida's role in this. It's just like, hey, there are bad pirates here. They do bad things, and here's a new character named Kobe. And we get the first name drop of Rowanoa's, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be calling him Zoro. I know.
I'm going to use Zoro.
It's Zolo in the manga. They had to change it because of the whole Zoro thing, 2R1. They did it for the manga, and then they had to just keep it that way for consistency because that's how it was in the 4Kids dub.
4Kids dub.
But Funimation actually uses Zoro. So
it's a hard thing to make a global change over what was even at the time was hundreds of chapters, so it's one of those things that's just stuck. I understand that folks don't like it, but
it's harmless.
Yeah, but of course you get used to it. I guess.
Yeah.
I use Zoro personally. I hope I don't get fired for that.
No. I mean, I definitely. I guess not from Viz. I don't think you don't work on One Piece. It's Dragon Ball.
Oh no, absolutely
Kaiju.
Not.
Yeah.
I work on like 20 or 30 different manga. But as far as Jump is concerned, I work on Dragon Ball, which has its own issues with that sort of thing that I'm not going to get into. But
yeah, how dare you call him Krillin and not Karurin, or however you do it?
Oh yeah.
I appreciate Krillin because I have trouble with my R's, but
that's tricky.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing here. This is mainly a character piece for Kobe and sort of showing his worldview about how he's just too scared to really do much of anything, and how Alvida just thinks Luffy could be a bounty hunter, and the only one brave enough to do that in this area would be Zoro. And it's with Kobe that we finally get the name drop of One Piece.
Yes. And then it's sort of, I love this sort of back and forth that happens across these the next few pages, where first off, Luffy says he's going to be king of the pirates, he's going to get One Piece, and Kobe's like, he flips out and is just like, this is impossible, how could you ever do this, like, what are you doing? And then of course, even later, he's just like, I want to join the Navy and fight the bad guys, and he's like, well, I can't do it, this is impossible for me. So he's very consistently just anti big goals.
Yeah,
it's just too scared to do anything, too scared to want nice things for other people.
And the only thing that snaps him out of it is that, well, one, Luffy hits him because he was hysterical, and he says, I've set myself to become the king of the pirates, and if I die trying, then at least I tried. And that's the thing that snaps Kobe out of it. And it you obviously no spoilers, and I'm not far enough for it, but that's Luffy to a T. It's like, yeah, this is what I want to do, so if I die, well, that's just how it is. This is what I'm setting out to do.
Yeah, I've been taking screenshots as I've been reading, and that's one of the panels I took a screenshot of, because it's just like, that's it. That's the story of the manga in a nutshell. If I die trying, then I you have to try for it. You have to reach for your goals.
Exactly.
And it's just such a powerful theme.
I love we get this little determination from Kobe's like, yes, I'm going to go capture Alvida. And she shows up and it's like, what? What's going to happen here? And it's like, he's trying to take it back a little bit. And all Luffy says is, again, this is old translation, tough looking old biddy.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine Luffy saying that at all.
I wish I'd written this down. I've something I should have established before was that I've actually been, I don't know if I'm going to keep up with this, but I've been reading the manga bilingually, so I've had the I've been reading primarily in Japanese and had the English translation sort of on the side whenever I got stuck. I don't remember what Luffy said for that line. I think it was like close-ish to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't imagine calling somebody a biddy.
Yeah. There's it's not something I super want to get into, but you know, I guess the landscape for how manga localization is, like how it works, has changed over 20 years, even 10 years really. So I feel like you do get some oddities like this every now and again.
You can definitely sense how they're trying to add in some piratisms as it goes along.
Yeah, and it just I think a lot of folks working today, not to toot my horn and the horn of my colleagues, like I feel like we've raised the bar a little bit. I don't want to badmouth the translation, because I think it is on the whole very good.
Right.
But you know, there's also just like kind of little things like that like sort of like they make you go, huh.
Mm-hmm. And there really is not much more to say, because Kobe actually stands up for himself, insults her, which basically is like, you know, it compels Luffy's like, okay, he stood up for himself. I'm going to take this, takes the hit, and wipes out Alvida in one hit.
Again, yeah.
At this point, Luffy's just one punch man.
Yeah. You know, there haven't been too many encounters that are much of a threat yet, which I think is something that's going to be maintained for a while. But,
I think that is a kind of a criticism for early One Piece, is that nothing's really a challenge for Luffy for a while. It takes a good while for him to really feel challenged.
I do think it sort of serves the purpose that it needs to serve for the story right now, because the action's not really the focus.
No.
As much as sort of establishing like who the characters and their ideals are, and you know, like just sort of building out the world. So I think I sort of, you know, it really is just like that one punch is the fight. I think the anime expands on this one a little bit, but
very slightly. I think it's like two punches or something like that.
Yeah, it's over pretty quickly. But yeah, it's a neat little story that you know, it's just like the ways the Luffy inspiring somebody to take responsibility for their own life is. That is going to be a theme.
Exactly.
It's a cute little version of it here.
And the last panel, actually, as they're sailing away in their new dinghy, it's amazing how much they set up with what's going on. One, we get our first mention of the Grand Line, which I had no idea that got mentioned as early as chapter 2. And 2, he decides that he's going to go after this Zoro, who's apparently being held at a Navy base, and he wants to go try to get him to join his crew if he's a good guy. And 3, something I only just noticed, Luffy hanging out on the bow, I think that's what you call it, the front of the ship.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, even as early as here, like that's just like that's his spot.
Yeah.
No matter what ship.
Which is crazy, because he doesn't want to fall off. Obviously, it shows his fearlessness. Like, that is the least safe part of the ship, and that's where he's hanging out, because he just likes to see the open ocean.
Oh, yeah, it's incredible.
It's amazing stuff, and
yeah,
I generally think it's not a pretty weak chapter, but it does establish a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that brings us to chapter 3. Enter Zoro, Pirate Hunter.
Yes.
Which, you know, we gotta raise the stakes here. We got Zoro, this intimidating guy who goes after pirates, and he's bloodthirsty, and he's a demon in human form.
Yeah, they really hype him up.
He's a bad guy, but you know, Luffy doesn't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, we arrive at this naval base town, and that's about it.
I do like that they set it up here pretty early on, where they're like having lunch in a restaurant. You know, they mention Zoro, and everybody freaks out. And it's like, well, okay. And then Kobe mentions, oh, I think Captain Morgan's at this base, and they freak out again. They're just like, oh, okay. You know, that's weird.
Yep. And Luffy's just like, well, that's a great restaurant. I want to go back there again. Everybody's so jumpy.
Yeah. Not a care in the world.
It again just shows that Kobe is standing up for himself, but he's still kind of a worrywart, and Luffy's just taking it. Also, I love that the restaurant's name is Food Foo.
Food. Yeah.
Okay. I like taking the time to look at this background stuff and
Yeah.
it's kind of the jokes they pull. And yeah, I mean, they have the restaurant. They have that sort of like, people are scared of Zoro and Morgan, this Captain Morgan.
Yep.
And they just go right to the base and, hey, there's Zoro hanging out in the middle of the yard, tied up to a post for some reason.
Yep.
And this is our first introduction to Zoro with the black bandana, the Haramaki sash.
What an intro.
I know, right? It screams badass, despite the fact that he's
really
tied
does.
up.
Yeah.
He's bleeding out. He looks rough as all get out, and
extremely intimidating.
He's definitely confident. He's like, come here and untie me, and I've been here for 9 days and can't take it anymore. Let me go. I'll capture a bounty and I'll pay you back.
Mm-hmm.
Which, honestly, I read that and, knowing where the whole storyline of why he's tied up there is like, it seems weird that he's giving up. Like he wants to be untied at this point. He has to almost be reminded that I guess nothing's happened this entire time. It's like he's kind of lost the motivation.
It is interesting once they get into like what he's been doing there in the first place. Like my vague memory of the anime's dialogue makes me think that was that something that they had changed. Because I remember it being more consistent in the anime that he was that he wasn't just like, okay, I give up, Yeah. And that he was more like, I got 9 days left and I'm here. Like, I don't quite know if that was a translation thing or an anime to manga change or
maybe
vice versa. Rather,
I'm not sure, but I do love the confidence that Kobe's like, don't untie him, he'll kill us. Like, he couldn't. I wouldn't let him. Which, fair.
Great.
It's just like it goes to show how confident Luffy is in his abilities, and then random little girl.
Yep. Oh, and even worse, or she's coming in trying to feed Zoro, and then you've got Helmeppo in here who is just the worst.
Oh god, just like dandy dude with the bad haircut, just like it's amazing just how easily hateable Helmeppo is. As soon as you see him, it's like, oh, this gives you a sense of what Captain Morgan's like if this is his son. Oh my god. And eats the little girl's rice balls, and turns out she used sugar instead of salt and stomps him into the ground.
Yep.
And then he ordered, like, I love Kobe's comment, how evil.
Yes,
stomping rice balls.
I do have an appreciation for how cartoonishly evil a lot of the, even just like throughout the story, even now, there are villains who are just like sort of gloriously awful.
Yeah.
But that makes you really want to root for the heroes to come in and just make everything right. And God, One Piece is it's so good at that.
It really is. It's also interesting in establishing because we have fun-loving pirates first chapter, bad pirates second chapter, and then we find out like the Navy, who you would think are good people. They're the Navy, they're fighting pirates and all that, and like, no, there's jerks in here as well. It's like it doesn't really matter where you're at. It's either good people or bad people. It doesn't matter what affiliation you're with. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And that to see that set up so early just makes me, I'm just kind of impressed at it. And that really is a concept that gets further explored as the story goes on, because it really is just like you have the pirates and the Marines as your like sort of major factions, and a bunch of sub factions on both sides, and good and bad characters in those like factions and sub factions. And that I think there's a lot to be said about your identity not mattering as much as your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I feel like I might be reading too much into it, but that is something I really, really like about One Piece.
Maybe we can see how it kind of carries on. We're just sort of figuring out these little things that are being established right now. It's just fun to see like where kind of Oda's going with this, because again, it's not action heavy right now.
You see the roots of it.
It's definitely this is not an action heavy set of chapters at all. It's more about just showing these characters, and Helmeppo's like, throw the girl over the fence, and so the soldier being like, I don't know if I should do that. I'll tell Daddy on you. Okay, I'll do it. There she goes.
Oh yeah. Those poor Marines being forced.
You find out about a bargain, and that's about it.
Yeah.
We got Luffy proposing Zoro joining his crew, and Zoro's like, nope, I would not lower myself to the level of a pirate. I don't care about my bad reputation. All I got to do is survive for 1 month and he can pursue his dream. Yep. And Luffy's like, I couldn't even last 1 week without food. That is true.
Very true. Very true.
You just get the sense that he's like, he's a bad guy. He's a hard ass. And then, of course, we got the moment of it shows he has a heart of gold because he wants to eat the crushed up rice ball and have Luffy tell the girl that he ate it and it was delicious.
When I think about the character of Zoro, I just think about all of the ridiculously cool and poignant moments that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And while like this isn't one of the action heavy ones, it is such a good way to like establish the kind of person that he is, and that's something I really appreciate about just like him eating dirty rice balls off the ground.
Exactly. It's mostly dirt at that point, but
yeah.
You see the girl appreciate it, and that's when you learn that the reason he's locked up like that is because he was protecting her from Helmeppo's dog, which I love this. It's such a simple panel. It's just him cutting this weird little dog.
Yeah.
Looks more like a wolf. I feel like the anime does a little bit better job of showing why he would interrupt like that. Like you get the basics with the manga.
Oh yeah.
But the anime showed that terrorizing everybody and how the deal was set up. I don't know. I like the expansion the anime does, but this gets you the basics that you need.
Yeah, it gets you the idea of and I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Just keeping it brief.
And then we end off the chapter by Luffy hearing about this and Helmeppo showing up again and bragging, having everybody bow before him before saying that he's planning on executing Zoro in 3 days, not keeping his end of the deal, which immediately sets off Luffy.
Sets him off. Oh yeah. He just get, man. I feel like that's also another classic One Piece trope of just like a villain saying one thing and it's like, it was actually this. And,
it's like,
and,
no.
Somebody overhears it and is just like, okay, now it's on. You were never on the level to begin with.
Keep up your promise and just punches out Helmeppo in one go. And decides, and chapter ends with like, I'm asking Zoro to join my crew.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's a nice setup. It really does. You get Zoro, you get the basics, you get to find out that he's actually a good guy. The rumors aren't true, which, surprise, surprise, honestly.
Yeah, of course.
But we still haven't actually met Captain Morgan yet. That is saved for the next chapter, which, oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Chapter 4, The Great Captain Morgan, and boy, is that a good title.
Oh, yeah.
We just start off with everybody shocked that Luffy punched it, and again, poignant line, scum is scum, no matter who its father is. And we find out Helmeppo has never been hit, even by his own father. He's like, I'm his beloved son, I'm telling daddy on you, and you'll be begging for mercy, and like, you booger face.
Baby. Yep.
Oh gosh. And then of course, like, well, Luffy's a dead man. Everybody get away from him.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's really what it comes down to.
Everybody is so afraid for their lives in this little village just because Morgan is ready to drop anybody who defies him, which we are just about to see.
Yeah, it's not so good. And Luffy again is like, whatever, and goes back to the base. And goes back to the fortress. And this is our introduction to Morgan. It's just him looking out a window and just going, I'm so great.
I love it.
He has a high opinion of himself.
Yes, it's just and it gets so escalated in a way that I love. It's just
we got the captain classic like Robin Hood thing where it's like tax the people. It's like they can't afford to pay him because we've taken all their money. I don't care. They still need to pay.
Yep.
So and then Helmeppo comes in and wants to threaten him, and it's interesting here this interaction between Luffy and Zoro because he goes to recruit him and Zoro's still saying, I'm not doing it. I don't want to become a pirate. Luffy's pointing out that he doesn't have a great reputation. He's like, I don't care what people think. I live by my own code and I do whatever I want. And then we get Luffy's stubbornness. Yeah, I don't care what you said. You're joining my crew.
Yes. Also something that's very One Piece. I feel like not every character, but it's such a classic. Like I don't care about your opinion. Like I have decided that you are going to go on this adventure with me, and you no longer have a say in the matter.
And then Luffy finds out that Zoro, of course, uses a sword, and they were taken by Helmeppo, and they're his dearest treasure. And Luffy decides, oh hey, if I get their swords back from the idiot's son, you'll have to join my crew.
Yep.
Just leaves to do that. It's just like
Yep.
blackmailing him into it.
Yeah.
Not too much to say about that, but it does just sort of establish Luffy's character traits in dealing with other
and
people.
I love that the back and forth he has with Zoro is something that will be explored across the series.
And then we get more of Helmeppo and Captain Morgan. And Helmeppo just, Father, why aren't you hunting the brigand who hit me? Do this.
I love this that it's something that doesn't have a long setup to resolution, but just like I'm so great that my daddy loves me so much that he's never once laid his finger on me, and he's just like, you're not even worth hitting.
Yeah, you are that much of a screw up. You can wipe your own bottom. I don't care if you use my status, but if you defy me, that's when we have trouble, and you're defying me right now. So you're not the great one. I am great. I am the great one. It's like, just repeated.
That's a great moment.
So he's so up his own ass.
Absolutely, he really is.
Love his design though. We finally get his full reveal of his design with
that elbow. I will
disturbing,
never like
isn't it?
It looks painful.
It looks like they just shoved in the stick and it stretched out the skin at the other side.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's rough.
It is. Whew. And then you get the metal jaw at the bottom. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah. But moving on, I actually really like the little conversation they have on the next page, talking about the little girl who fed Zoro, and Morgan's reaction is like, so you killed her, right? And then Helmeppo's was like, no, she was just a little girl. I sort of like that, yeah, you've introduced that Helmeppo is awful, but yet he somehow still has a line that he's not willing to cross. That his dad is just like, no, offer.
That's how far gone he is. Yeah.
I like that. That's sort of establishing the baseline for a character, and then just the next guy's like, no, what are you doing? Kill her.
Yeah, it's a nice little character beat, and I'm curious if you know what the writing on his chin means. Moe, MOWE. It's like,
I have no idea. I know, that's the bird wing thing is the Marine logo, but I don't know what Moe is supposed to is that I almost wonder if it's like the brand of his little face mask. I have no idea, or if it's an acronym. The Marines
just hand these out. Yeah, it's like, here you go.
Yeah. I actually have no idea.
But he asks the lieutenant to go kill the little girl for defying him, and when the guy says I won't murder a little girl, well, he gets the axe.
Yeah.
It's just brutal.
It's a good way to show how awful this villain is. It's just okay, if you're not going to betray your human values to kill a child, then I'm just going to kill you here in cold blood. It
establishes him as more of actually definitely more evil than Alvida, because she's abusing her crew, but she's not killing them or anything like that. He's just completely convinced of his own greatness. Rank, as he says, means everything. And since his is the highest, everything he does is right, which is such a warped worldview.
One Piece is a story about toppling corrupt power structures.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of that.
I mean, that is what Luffy does, is topple a structure.
Yes.
I love that moment. That just this setup is like, oh, hey, there's stuff going up there. I'll go and use this gum rocket to come up. And
right, yeah, because Luffy's looking for his swords for Zoro's swords in the base. And he's like, I'm just going to yeet myself up to the top of the building.
I'll find it. And you get this whole explanation. Like, you dinged the statue and I've waited years for this to be finished. It shows how great I am. And then Luffy breaks it in half.
It's such a good gag of them just like heaving the statue of Captain Morgan, and then Luffy just drops down and breaks it. And I love everybody's faces that are just like, oh my god. This
is pure One Piece in my opinion. Something crazy happens, everybody goes just shocked face.
Yes.
And Luffy says a little something, and then the reaction happens like, I want this man dead. I'm through. And I also love the ludicrousness of Luffy kind of kidnapping Helmeppo, but not really. Just like, hey, I need you. Come with me.
Yeah, I'm just going to borrow him for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just flipping out.
Oh, it's so good. And then, again, it's a fun little moment here with Kobe and Zoro. Kobe is now knowing that Zoro's a good guy. It has no fear going up to him and wants to rescue him, and hates the way the I guess in the manga decided to go with Navy rather than Marines, but
that's complicated.
yeah, we'll just go back and forth between the two because
basically
it's the same thing.
They're not interchangeable, but as far as I'm concerned right now, they are interchangeable.
Exactly. But yeah, Luffy made it a point to not mention how Helmeppo was going to break his promise. It's through.
Oh yeah, you're right.
It's through Kobe that Zoro finds that out. Actually, he doesn't even tell him in this point. Not even Kobe told him that. That's next chapter. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. He's just like, I want to be a proper sailor. Luffy wants to become a king of the pirates. And
yeah, that's the proper reaction of just like, what?
Yeah, he's
really?
Like, what the heck? And then Kobe gets shot.
Oh yeah, which I
don't remember that
happened in the anime.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I reading that surprised me. That it's like, I don't think he got shot, but yeah, that's one way to down him, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good
way to raise the stakes, I guess.
At the time. Yeah, raise the stakes because Luffy's just off like dragging Helmeppo, and Zoro looks livid. I love that little thing. This guy's helping him. It's just like, no.
Yeah.
And that's it for the chapter 4. So
yeah,
bring us back again to chapter 5, which before we even get into it, chapter 5 is called The King of the Pirates and the Master Swordsman. I love the splash page to begin this chapter.
Yeah.
Just the utter ridiculousness of Luffy having drinks with this dolphin on land.
Especially in these early chapters, I feel like there's a lot of chapter cover pages that are not only wacky, but like they're just like so one of the characters is doing something weird with another animal.
Exactly. Luffy's just drank his drink, is trying to steal the dolphin, and the dolphin looks ready to deck him.
They're so creative. I can't get enough of these.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. And then just Zoro just drinking in the background.
I know, he's just like, it's
a great little one.
And then, of course, we get the utter ridiculousness of like, hey, tell me where your room actually is or where the swords actually are. Is like, oh, wait, they're back in my room. We passed a long way back because you've just been dragging me.
Yes, we passed it.
And then I think this is where the comedy of One Piece has really started to take off.
Yeah,
because
the slapstick has just been driven up to the next level.
Helmeppo's face when Luffy lifts him up and puts him between him and the people trying to shoot him, yeah. Which we find out later, Luffy can't be hurt by these guys anyway.
Which is even funnier.
There's no reason to put him up like this as a human shield. So it's just a mess with Helmeppo.
Yeah.
We have Helmeppo screaming right into Kobe screaming.
Yep.
Which, hey, he's alive. And it's like, he's like screaming, I'm going to die. It's like, oh, and Zoro's like, oh, you'll be fine. You're alive.
Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah. And this is where we find out that that Helmeppo was going to break the promise to begin with. So yeah, now the Navy is his enemy, which is a good reason for him to
actually fight back.
Zoro to, yeah. It's a good motivation for him to fight back now.
Mm-hmm. And they're cornered. Guns are trained on them. And that's when Luffy reaches Helmeppo's room and finds 3 swords. But Helmeppo's passed out at this point, so
he's just foaming at the mouth. I love
it. I was scared to death from the possibility of getting shot. Yeah. And that's when Luffy looks out the window, and Morgan's convinced that everybody's trying to overthrow him. He's like, "All right, time to finish it off." And flashback.
I'll be real right off the bat. This is like one of my least favorite flashbacks in the series. That's a really high bar because a lot of the like character focused ones are really, really good, but this one with Zoro I think is really weak for what it is.
Yeah, Zoro gets the short shrift here because the idea here is good and solid. We have this girl named Kuina. Kuina?
Yeah, Kuina.
And, he's known as Two Swords Zoro, and he's lost 2,000 times against Kuina. And she's saying, like, you're kind of weak for a boy, and everybody else is like, he's the strongest in our dojo, and he's even beaten adults. It's unfair because she's the sensei's daughter. And the sensei is like, I didn't do anything to teach her any tricks. And you find out Zoro wants to be the greatest swordsman in the world. And goes off one night to challenge her with real swords, loses again.
Yep.
And he's still just completely frustrated. And that's when Kuina kind of opens up and says, and this is, this is definitely the part that has not aged well.
Well,
like,
to me, it's the 1-2 punch, but here's the first part.
yeah, exactly. It's like when girls get older, they become weaker than boys. Soon you'll be stronger than me. And then the fact that her dad says girls can't be master swordsmen.
Yeah.
And how she wishes she was a boy, and because, her breasts are starting to develop. And it's like, you get this good moment from Zoro where she's like, hey, don't blame your body on this. Beating you is my dream. I want to beat you because you're the best. I don't care if you're a girl or not.
Yeah, and that's the part I like, by the way.
Yeah,
that's something
good.
I really like about Zoro's character.
But the concept getting put out there, this girl's convinced that she'll be weak because she's a girl.
Yeah.
Ostensibly instilled in her by her own father.
Yeah,
What the hell?
Yeah. And, well, obviously, like, I think it's much more about, like, the circumstance. Like, there's obviously a lot of really fantastic, like, characters, female characters who can go toe to toe with the boys in One Piece. Like, so I don't think it's not necessarily like it's not like the story saying that girls can't be cool swordsmen as well.
Yeah.
As much as like, it's that her dad is, being sexist and whatnot, but it's the 1-2 punch of like this sort of establishing Kuina kind of sees herself as lesser than Zoro, and then she dies.
Right. It is I forgot how sudden that was. It's like,
it's just like,
it's a
what?
promise. By the way, next panel, she fell down the stairs and she's dead.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that one. It just, I understand sort of and it's something that comes into play later, like as a way to establish Zoro's own personal motivation, but I guess it's kind of too much too fast for me.
The pacing on this, I do feel like maybe would have killed the pacing of the manga. I don't know, but to spend too long on this should have been 2 chapters. There needed to be more time.
I think at the very least, and I understand, like, since we're still early, like, it's just chapter 5,
right? So
there still has to be things to like to build up an audience and to like establish who the characters are and like, like the events that shaped them. But like Zoro is a really important character who ends up having like one of the weaker motivations among the main cast. And it's something that they haven't really like there are other fantastic character moments that he gets, but like I guess like sort of the fact that this is how it starts is just kind of like you kind of tripped out of the gate a little bit on this one. And it's maybe one of the only beats in the early part of the story that I just kind of outright don't like.
Yeah, the fact that they just like fridge this girl essentially to give that motivation because he's like, I'll keep the promise.
It's a weird one.
Be a swordsman whose name will be known even in heaven because it's. I feel like the anime did do better. Slightly better on this.
I don't remember the anime's take on this part.
I feel like they gave it a little bit more time. I could be wrong on that, but at least the sensei seems less callous.
I do remember him having more time in the anime.
Yeah, the sensei definitely got more time. We got more of how Zoro ended up at the dojo and how he developed his style. Like, there's good beats for that. I don't necessarily know if they did more with Kuina and how suddenly she dies, but it does seem kind of weird that, like, Sensei, can I have her sword? Well, I suppose so. It's like, it feels like he doesn't care.
Okay. Yeah, it's just framed really weirdly.
It really is. It is an unfortunate blemish on these early chapters, and it's such a shame. But because I like Kuina's design, I like the idea of this awesome girl that's beaten Zoro 2,000 times, and he's considered a demon.
It's a great concept. Yeah, I think it could have been fleshed out, but and the fact that it's like a handful of pages in between the action is just like. It's odd. Yeah, the whole thing's just odd.
It felt like Oda wasn't confident yet. It's like, I don't want to slow, like, we're in the action now. I don't want to slow it down by having backstory. Something he gets over later. I do know that.
For sure.
I think nowadays he probably would have fleshed that up to like 2 chapters, like have that moment, flashback, have some sort of like a cliffhanger for the flashback, and then finish off the rest and then get the rest of this action where we end in this, because all we get is like, because I promised her I can't die yet, and then that's when Luffy grabs the 3 swords, jumps out the window, and
what
shows
an entrance.
I know the bullets don't do anything to it. That is a very cool entrance by Luffy, and I want to know how he found out bullets can't hurt him.
Yeah. I mean, there's only one way to find out, right? I mean, this is the boy who was willing to like stab himself in the face. So.
That is true. It's like, all right, I need you to shoot me
got a gun
in the leg, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I love the eye bulging from Morgan as it all happens. Like
I never noticed that.
Yeah, all the Marines are completely just splayed out because they're dodging the bullets that are going flying everywhere. Morgan's freaking out with his eyes bulging. Luffy's laughing like a madman. Kobe's passed out gurgling at the mouth while Zoro's just like, what the heck is happening?
A very common occurrence in the story, I feel like.
And then that's when we find out that all three swords belong to Zoro. He practices Tentoryu, the three-sword style.
Yes.
And that's when he agrees, like, well, they're going back on their promise.
Yeah, that's where it ends.
And, well, I'll join you. You've got yourself a pirate.
It's so good. I love the circumstances and the build-up to sort of, like, convincing each character to either join the crew or, like, take control of their own lives in their own way. It's just that last line from Zoro is so good.
Again, we're still very early on, and we have a lot of characters to meet. There's a ton of characters in One Piece.
Oh yeah,
but I do think these first 5 chapters, outside of stumbling with Zoro's backstory, these are fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great hook. Going back to these early chapters, it's been such a blast. Not just as the perspective of somebody who's caught up to all 1,000 something chapters, but just like it's just an introduction to a good story. Mm-hmm. It has me, even now, even knowing where the story goes, it just has me so captivated. I love the characters, I love this world. It's just fun. Yeah.
There's a great sense of adventure to it, and it's impressive because, again, it's not like it's action packed. We're only just now getting some action at the end with these pirates trying to shoot Luffy and not working. That's about the most action we've had here. It's just like Luffy running around the base.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is more or less what we'll be covering next week. Will basically be our first like actual fight.
I think so. I believe so. I forget who's next. Oh yeah, I do remember who's next. So yeah, that's next time will be interesting as we get to the next set of chapters, and I'm excited. I'm very excited. I've been wanting to get back to One Piece for a long time, and I find myself appreciating it more, even just with this first episode, talking with you and like going over these details and noticing these things that I didn't before. That's fun.
Yeah, and that's One Piece. Obviously, in a manga as long as this and as dense of a world as it is, there's going to be an infinite amount of things to find, basically. I'm highly just looking forward to getting a new lease on the story. It's just really, really exciting to me. And again, just like you, even though I'm fairly familiar with One Piece, I felt a little self-conscious because I'm like, well, yeah, One Piece is basically one of my favorite manga ever, but there's also people who are way more knowledgeable about it than I am.
Oh yeah, we are not experts at all.
Yeah,
but
I'm hoping just being able to take it slow and talk about it at this pace, I think will really it'll do a good job at like being able to soak in the details and stuff.
And I hope people let us know if they're just starting out, if they're rereading it with us, that sort of thing. Like,
yes.
I'm curious how everybody's involvement is going with this whole podcast journey. And exactly how it goes along, and I'm maybe we can make some people some new fans, because as we're not going at a breakneck pace, I can also imagine some people starting up with us and be like, "Well, I got to see what happens next. I'm reading ahead. I'm sorry."
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I could totally see that.
If y'all read ahead, that would be that means that it's working.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't spoil us. Well, spoil me, but you're not going to spoil Brandon.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to try to do my best not to spoil you with my retweets and stuff.
Oh, yeah. But with that, I believe we've said all we wanted to say about chapters 1 to 5 of One Piece. Bit of an extra long episode. I think we're going to mainly keep this to about an hour, but I feel like with our history of One Piece and the fact that chapter 1 is very long, we'll
have to hit a good pace.
Yeah, I think these will probably end up to be about an hour or so. So just an extra long episode for this one. And thank you so much for listening. And you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube, or BitNerd with an underscore at the end over on Twitter. But Brandon, where can they find you at?
I'm at Brandon Bovia on Twitter. It's just literally just my name. Very easy to find me. I talk about manga. I talk about games. I guess probably probably the important part that I sort of buried the lead a little bit, but I'm the English letterer for Dragon Ball Super and Kaiju number 8 and like 20 or 30 other manga of varying levels of popularity. I'm also the English letterer for the manga Ayashimon, which is, as of recording, I think it'll be announced in like an hour, but will probably be a few chapters deep by the time this comes out. So
yeah, I think so. We're getting ahead on a lot of these, so we decided to build up a surplus.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if you're at all interested, come talk to me about One Piece or any other manga, whether or not I work on it. You know, I love manga and I love talking about it.
Yeah.
Whether or not in a professional capacity or otherwise.
Yeah, I grew up with anime and manga, but I have lapsed recent years. I watch occasional stuff, but I am not in it like I was as a teenager. So
that's
revisiting it, I'm just an anime fan who's also does the games media, but I do enjoy anime, and this is something I've been wanting to do for a while. So
and I'm honored to be a part of the journey.
Honored that you wanted to join me, honestly. So yeah, just thank you all so much for listening. And if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derek Bittner. That's DERRICKBITNER to listen to the next episode 3 days early. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 6 to 10 of One Piece. Until then, my friends, bye.
Bye-bye.
So, what about you, Luffy? What was it that first got you to set sail on these seas?
Well, I'm gonna be king of the pirates!